What up, fam? This is Kelly from West Georgia Defense Group, aka Breakfast Punts. Today we're going to be giving my EDC a little bit of TLC, if that's enough acronyms for you, doing a general cleaning and inspection, which includes the disassembly and assembly at a field level of this Glock firearm. The round count for this blaster is about 13,000. With 1,500 of that being since the last cleaning, so we want to make sure we're pretty thorough and don't miss any damage. Step 1, clear the gun out by pressing the mag release and removing the source of feed. Check the chamber and send the slide home. Next thing we're going to do is take the slide off the frame, and you do that by pulling the slide back until a couple of notches on the side line up with the slide lock on the bottom. Then you pull the slide lock all the way down and depress the trigger. What that does is moves the slide lock out of the way so that the slide can come apart from the frame. Once you got that gun apart, you're going to remove the recoil spring assembly and the barrel. This is pretty easy. Just take it off the notch and pull the gun apart. Already at this point, you should be inspecting these parts, making sure they're not jammed or stuck or cracked or broken. Everything should come apart easily without forcing or prying anything. Here we have the magazine, barrel, slide assembly, and frame. We're going to start off by inspecting everything closely, checking that firing pin, checking the safety system inside the slide, and making sure nothing is obviously broken or damaged. We also want to get a good before idea of what we're working with so that we can know what has changed once we're done cleaning the weapon. Let's start our inspection with the barrel assembly. So first, let's look at the chamber itself and the rifling inside the barrel. Just so happens you can check both those at the same time. But we're looking for no damage and uniformity inside the barrel. It should have like a mirror-like finish. Then let's check those moving parts of the lower parts kit. A lot of this stuff is caked up in carbon, so it's going to be difficult to do any sort of inspection. That's why I typically start with the barrel assembly. Next thing we're going to check is the slide itself. Let's check that slide, make sure nothing is cracked, nicked, missing, or warped. We want to make sure that any scratches or finish that has left the slide doesn't conceal any sort of rust or damage. Primary tool we're going to be using today is a Otis combo scraper brush thing that I had in a cleaning kit, along with a little bit of Hornady one-shot, which is new to me, so we're going to be kind of careful with it. I don't want to use a chamber brush for this process either, but we were able to get the chamber itself to change colors once we got all that carbon off. It looks like this portion of the weapon is a go, so we're going to continue the process. 1,500 rounds is a bit of a stretch for a Glock between cleaning, so there's a lot of carbon on the barrel assembly. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that real quick. I want to take a look at the recoil spring assembly. It's pretty easy to just wipe it off and take a look at it. Is it broken? No. Does it work? Yes. Okay. This component is a pass. We are cleaning the slide assembly, and that includes the firing pin, extractor, safety plunger, blah, blah, blah. There was so much carbon here that I could not see light between the extractor. We want to be extremely thorough here and make sure we get everything free of carbon. We also don't want to get any sort of lubricant inside the safety mechanisms. Next up is the frame, and on the frame we have the fire control group. That's the trigger bar, yada yada, but we also have the rails that the slide moves along. So we want to be careful here. There's not a lot of space for the scraper, and we're gonna need the one shot, but we don't want to be putting it all over the plastic. So what I do is I just try to get the brush to go into as many crevices as possible. I start with the rails and I work my way down. Typically, this is a pretty quick process, but you can see here just by a quick once over with the brush, things are already starting to change colors. So making sure the fire control group is the shape it's supposed to be and works the way it's supposed to work, and nothing's bent or broken or warped in any way was a pretty involved process. and I ended up having to get creative. Some of the finishes of these parts is black, so figuring out what was carbon and what was not carbon, that was kind of difficult. There was a lot of carbon. Some areas were supposed to have spaces, didn't have spaces because the space was full of carbon. So, yeah. I use a Streamlight TLR7A with the updated switches. And there's three little screws on the back of the device that tend to back out. It usually takes a couple thousand rounds. Last week they were all the way out, so I tightened them down on the fly. But I don't like to use a screwdriver for this because I don't want to damage or strip those screws. But we're going to go ahead and hit it real quick, and I clean the lens off camera. But we want to make sure this thing is good to go because this is my EDC. I went and got the 30 cal bore snake for the barrel. We're going to use the bore snake to clean the inside of the barrel so that we can inspect the rifling. Once we're able to do that, we're going to use tissue paper to get everything nice and clean on the inside. Hit it with the wipe a couple times, hit it with the bore snake a couple times, and you get a nice mirror-like finish. We really only want to get it clean so that we can inspect the rifling. With this, I was surprised, no damage, looks just like it was new. Next thing, often forgotten, often neglected, that front end of the barrel, there's a little lip there that gets pretty covered in carbon and sometimes rust depending on the firearm. So I take the scraper, clean that out real good so we have a nice shiny ring on the end. Doesn't really affect it too much, but I mean, we're inspecting the thing, so we want to make sure everything's good to go. Next thing we're going to do is apply a very fine amount of white lithium grease to the high friction points. We want to make sure it doesn't run in anywhere or clump up anywhere or glob up or whatever. And it's a very fine film, so any excess I removed with the paper towel. Now, finally, we are going to complete the inspection by ensuring all the parts go back together the way that they're supposed to go back together. So you put the barrel in, you put the recoil spring assembly in, and then there's two little notches that you can find where these slide rails are that the frame rails fit into. And then you put those two together until the slide itself passes the slide lock, and then now you have an assembled pistol. If this were a cleaning, you'd be done, but this is an inspection, so we need to function check the pistol. What you're going to do is rack it, press the trigger, rack it, press the trigger till you're satisfied. Then you're going to hold the trigger to the rear, rack the pistol, release the trigger, and press it again. This is going to make sure that the fire control group is working the way that it's supposed to. Next thing you're going to check is the magazine release, and that's pretty straightforward. Just press it, make sure it works. And the slide stop. So pull the slide back with the magazine inserted. Make sure that the slide release or slide stop works, and that the slide locks open when you pull it to the rear on empty mag. As a CCW practitioner, I hope this field maintenance video was helpful to you. I did it in one take. I wasn't sure what we would find. I've been shooting reloads for some time and got a couple squibs, so I'm glad that there were no surprises. Anyways, train hard, stay safe. I'll see y'all on the range.